Hey everybody, I'm gonna read a story that I wrote about my life. It means a lot to me, and all of it is true facts. It really did happen, and it's very personal, so reading this is kind of hard for me. Memoirs of a Teenage Girl. My life began on October 20th, 1997 at 9:27 a.m. at the Horrible Hospital, weighing exactly 7 pounds, lost a pound by the end of the day. I was born, like everyone is, with a hole in my heart. The only difference is, my hole never closed. When I was born, my mom was married to my sister's dad. My sister and I have been best friends since I was born. We did everything together, until I was a year old and my mom decided to take me and my older sister Haley off the mountain. My sister Kayla stayed with her dad on the mountain, while I grew up in Yuba City, California, with my mom and stepdad. My mom ended up getting into hard drugs and started leaving me with people so she could go out and party. She ended up leaving me with her mom, which would end up being a day she regretted. While she was out partying, I was introduced to the word domestic abuse. My grandma beat the crap out of her husband at the time, and the cops showed up and they arrested my grandma and took me into the station. My mom came by later, but little did she know that they would test her before she could take me home. She failed her drug test with flying colors. My mom lost me to CPS. I cried for my mom when the cops took me to foster care. I spent all day locked in a room because they didn't know what to do with me. My mom got me for weekends when she was good and only if she went to every meeting. I was in foster care for almost 2 years. I had slept walk every night for a year straight. My stepdad almost hit me with a bat once. Oh my God. Till he realized it was me. Then he calmly showed me the way to bed. Within that year, my mom had my little sister, Georgia. She was born with autism. My sister's been bullied her whole life. She went from being bullied to being the bully. My sister had rocks thrown at her and basketballs. Most of the time, she wasn't even allowed to play sports with them. My sister wanted to fit in so much, she started hanging out with the wrong crowd. One day, these girls brought alcohol to school and told my sister it was soda, so of course she took a drink and spit it out. My little sister got in a fist fight with one of her friends because this girl said my sister could do better than the guy she was dating. Then when my sister was in class, she threw this kid's books on the ground. I was very disappointed in my little sister because she was following in my footsteps. I worry about her all the time. She can be anyone she wants to be, just not me. When I was 5, I was at a terrible babysitter. I saw her spank my little brother once for taking a toy from another kid. He was only 1. When I was outside, I was being chased by my guy friends. I tripped on a bunch of rocks. I was gushing blood out of my knee. My babysitter put a band-aid on it and sent me back to play, but I couldn't walk, which should have been a sign. When my mom came and picked me up, the babysitter told her, but nobody thought much of it, mostly because I was always getting hurt. By the time the weekend was over, I was rushed to the hospital. My knee swelled up to the size of a bowling ball, and with a poison line going down my leg. The doctors rushed me in immediately. I was put into emergency surgery. By the 9th surgery, I had already been in the hospital for 4 months. The doctor told us that I was either going to die or lose my leg. They told me they were going to try one more surgery. So the next day, I was put in surgery. My parents expected to hear bad news, but instead the doctor and the nurses were crying. They saved my leg and my life. They told my parents it was a miracle that I got to keep my leg. I was in the hospital for 1 more month before I was discharged. Of course, I still couldn't walk. I still think to this day, what would my life be like now if I didn't have a leg? Would I still be me, or would I be someone completely different? I'm glad I'm me, though. Just proves God is watching over me. When I was 6 years old, I started kindergarten. I was scared to start school. On my first day of school, I ended up in the principal's office for kicking and hitting my principal. I remember having a SpongeBob lunchbox and holding on to it, worried that my grandma and my mom wouldn't come back for me. When I calmed down, the principal sent me to class. That's when I was sat by the girl that would become my best friend, Angela Prez. At recess, she was bullied, and I felt bad. I stood up for her. She was like a sister to me. In first grade, I was doing horrible in school. They finally decided to put me in a class with first and second graders. Then I slid by and didn't have to get held back. In second grade, I met a guy named Zach. Zach and I had a lot of fun together. We both hated school, so when it was break, we'd fall off the monkey bars trying to break our legs so we could go home early. Just to let you know, we did not hurt ourselves, unfortunately. Then I met Stone and Brian. I met them because Stone lived across the street. Brian was his best friend. I ended up dating Stone for 2 months, and he dumped me for someone else. Brian had been my very first kiss in second grade. He was upside down on the monkey bars, and I asked him to kiss me. So romantic, right? Wrong. We broke up the next day. My little brother, Chase, was playing in my older sister's room a week after we broke up, and the TV fell on his head. He was rushed to the hospital. He got butterfly stitches. He's my tough little brother. I'm going to skip to when school started getting harder, and so did life. 6th grade. I went to Terra Buena. Terra Buena was a school where I met a lot of nice people, but also many mean people. I met Heidi Rutherford in 6th grade. I stuck by her side most of middle school till 8th grade. A lot of crap went down with me and my ex, and Heidi was his best friend. Obviously, she took his side. Heidi and I ended up getting in a fist fight. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't hit back. Wasn't going to stoop to her level, so I talked her out of it. When we were in the office waiting for our rides, her mom said something that stuck in my head to this day. She said, "What is wrong with you guys? You guys are supposed to be friends. Friends don't stab each other in the back." She was 100% right. Heidi and I never became friends again. 8th grade was the first year I ever thought about suicide. I cried several nights in a row. Then I met my first love, Chris Crook, on Facebook, my freshman year of high school. He was my everything. He took my heart and my virginity. He had my heart, and he stabbed it and abused it when he cheated on me with my ex-girlfriend. I stayed up many nights after him, crying, hurting, not knowing how to go on. It took me 2 years to eventually get over him. That's when I met Jay Till. I was sitting at school, talking to my friends, waiting for drama practice to start. He walked up to me and sat as close as he could to me. He asked for my number. I told him that I didn't have a phone at the time, so he decided to write it on my homework. I discovered a week later that he talked to every girl, so I stopped talking to him for a while. Before I even met Jay, I had been sexually abused and verbally abused by someone I loved. He was drunk, but there was other times he wasn't. He knows who he is. So I have a few questions for you. Why did you do it? What did I do that was so bad? You were supposed to love me and be there for me. I struggle because of your abuse. I still break down. I have flashbacks of all those nights. The night you called me by my mom's name, told me you didn't mean to hurt me. The times you called me a bitch and told me if I looked at you wrong again, you would punch me in the face. Did you know that I was afraid of you? I spent nights in my room sitting there, scared you would come in my room and hurt me. Other nights I slept with a knife under my pillow, waiting for you to make your move again. Did you know I shoved pills down my throat, starved myself, cut and even put a rope around my neck because I didn't want to live anymore? All because of you. Answer me. Why? A couple days after my sis asked me to be the maid of honor at the wedding, I couldn't enjoy it because of you. I looked forward to people coming and spending the night, because then I could actually sleep. One day I will get my answers. Jay and me ended up going out my junior year. He was only a freshman. Chris may have taken everything, but I was off and on with Jay for almost 2 years. Jay and I had a connection nobody understood. Jay encouraged me in a lot of ways, but he also brought me down. When my mom had hurt me and I ran away, Jay was there to help me out. He stood up for me, but there was also the fact he yelled at me when I mentioned something that was bothering me, then told me I was a liar when I told him about my stepdad. He told me to admit that I was a slut. Then when I disagreed and told him that I was depressed, he told me to kill myself. I wanted to. All that went through my head was, if my mom didn't want me, or my biological dad, or the love of my life, and if my stepdad wanted to hurt me, then why live? I wanted to die. When I turned 18, my mom decided she couldn't handle me anymore, so I moved in with my 21-year-old sister, my 2-year-old nephew, and my bro-in-law. Kayla, Zayden, and Patrick welcomed me into their home. I had been out of school for a month before I found Prospect, and they took me in. Prospect is where I met wonderful people who I loved as a family. I met the guy I fell head over heels in love with, James Mallory. We talked about getting married and how we were going to have 3 kids. We decided one day that if it was a boy, he would name it, and if it was a girl, I would name it. We were together for almost 5 months. Our relationship went cold. Another guy I ruined my chances with by being myself. I graduated early from Prospect High School with a 3.8 GPA. I had finally done it, proved everyone wrong, but why did I still feel so alone? On July 20th, 2016, I moved in with my biological dad and my stepmom, Becky. I finally feel like a part of a family again. I can finally have food in my belly again and not worry about starving or being homeless. I got bad news 2 days after moving to Delaware. My dog I had for 7 years had been taken from me. Someone didn't believe he had a reason to live and brutally poisoned him. He had always been the one to comfort me when I was scared and hurt, and I could always talk to him because he would listen. So before you say a dog is just a dog and they can't be family, think again. My Chihuahua Cody was my best friend. He was the only one I believed that loved me unconditionally. He was special to me. I'll be 19 soon, and I'm pretty sure to add to my life story. But until then, I hope I've opened some people's eyes that miracles can happen and life does get better. My heart goes out to the people who ended their life way too soon because of stupid people. You guys are beautiful and special. Hope to meet you lost souls in heaven one day. Thank you for listening. I hope I opened some people's eyes because this stuff really does happen, and it happened to me. And I struggle with it. I still cut occasionally, but I'm getting better at it. And thank you. Love you.